Good evening. An electrical storm system that caused hundreds of lightning strikes is lingering over the city tonight. The bolts caused a devastating house fire, delayed trains and flights, and blacked out 7,000 homes across Perth.
In slow motion, these bolts of electricity are even more spectacular.
Whoa, that was a good one!
But for one Parkwood family, it was devastating. Ali Cameron's home was destroyed by fire, sparked by a bolt of lightning.
That lit up the whole house. The power went out. Chimes started going off everywhere.
The house was struck twice, 4 hours apart. The sleeping family didn't realise there was a fire burning in their roof.
A neighbour was ringing our bell, knocked on our door, and said that our house was on fire. So, we just got the boys and got out, and then you could see the smoke coming from the roof.
When the guy rang the doorbell, I quickly got out of the bed because I knew something hit the house.
Firefighters say the house will need to be demolished.
The massive bang, and then it was just like...
North of the city, scaffolder Roger Hunt was at a Neerabup warehouse when he says he was struck by lightning.
We got a massive crash of thunder and lightning, just bang, just down. I felt like I was in it. It was like all around me. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced.
Last night's storm rolled in from the hills at sunset. By 10 o'clock, planes had been grounded at Perth Airport. 25 flights in total, thousands of passengers delayed while lightning kept airport staff off the tarmac. Western Power restored electricity to 7,000 homes across the state. Innaloo Sportsman's Club was drenched, tradies picking the wrong week for roof renovations.
Mainly carpet damage, there is a bit of ceiling damage, but we've been pretty lucky. We don't think there's much that we can't recoup.
Lightning also caused delays on the trains from Joondalup to Mandurah, a damaged transformer causing signal issues during peak hour this morning.
There's also been the very high humidity levels as well. An indication of that is a temperature reading that we call the dew point. That was very high this morning, one of the highest readings in March that we've had.
The Bureau says last night's thunderstorm was intense, sparked by a combination of three factors. Perth's humidity was 97% at 6 o'clock this morning. An unstable atmosphere allowed the clouds to expand, while a current low-pressure trough is making the air rise.
And we're being warned the electrical storms are set to continue through the night. Michael Genovese, the conditions are still perfect for lightning.
Good evening, Tim. Right now, conditions are almost identical to 24 hours ago, and we've already seen one storm cell roll through the eastern suburbs of Perth. Now, the Bureau says that this weather pattern is highly unpredictable, but certain pockets of Perth can expect some heavy rainfall this evening. There is already a severe thunderstorm warning in place north of Perth. That's up the coast to Shark Bay. We are expecting this storm cell to clear the metropolitan area by around about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Now, the violent storm system that pummeled the central part of the United States is now heading east.
More than 20 tornadoes were reported in 5 states. At least 3 people were killed, 2 in Illinois and 1 in Missouri. Michelle Miller is in the Plate, Illinois, outside Ottawa, Illinois, which was one of the hardest hit areas. Michelle, we can see the extensive damage behind you. Paint a picture for us. What's it like?
Oh, it's just awful. I have to tell you that homes have been severely damaged. There are situations here that families are coming back to absolutely nothing. You have downed trees, as you can see before me. You have power lines that are down. You have whole power poles that have been taken, literally ripped out of the ground and are leaning over. It's awful to witness, especially awful when you see the looks and the horror on the faces of the individuals who live inside these homes, and they have nothing left. We met one family who came back. Everything inside their house was destroyed, and the only thing remaining was their pit bull dog. I have to tell you, the other thing about this is just how many people this one tornado affected. There are 500 families whose homes were impacted here. That's a quarter of the town of Naplate. So it is really hitting this place hard. The governor of Illinois stopped through here to reassure families that the state would be here for them. And in fact, last night he enacted the state's Emergency Response Operations Center so that they could hit the ground running this morning and ensure that they would be here to provide help and assistance to many of the families who are, quite frankly, going to be displaced.
En büyük tesellimiz bize ulaşan herhangi bir can kaybının olmaması. Bu bizim en büyük tesellimiz. Samsak ve kısmen Adıyaman merkezde ve Şahsat'ta birkaç dışındaki ilçelerimizde bir sıkıntımız yok. Herhangi bir hasar veya yaralı vatandaşımızdan bulunmamakta. Bize ulaşan tedavi amaçlı başlayan vatandaşlarımızdan ama
Now, Oklahoma and Kansas have the same risk levels of having an earthquake. Now, that's according to the U.S. Geological Survey. However, there's just one major difference. The Golden State's tremors have been caused by natural reasons, and Oklahoma's quakes are man-made, and many have been connecting it to hydraulic fracturing in the state. The forecast for 2017 says there may be fewer earthquakes, but their magnitude could rise, endangering the lives of up to 3 million people. RT's Alexei Yaroshevsky reports.
Shaking earth, devastation and deaths. Earthquakes occur as a result of seismic waves through rupture of geological faults or volcanic activity. That's of course the natural explanation, and for decades the state of California topped the chart of such earthquakes in the United States. But what if those earthquakes are man-made, caused by hydraulic fracking and wastewater disposal technology? The vivid example of that is the state of Oklahoma. Since 1999, it went from registering 2 earthquakes a year to 3 earthquakes a day. Some just break windows, some can even damage buildings. This time-lapsed video of earthquake count over the last decade in Oklahoma would give you a better idea of how bad it is for the state right now. And it's hardly a coincidence that all this follows an oil and gas boom there. Oklahoma currently has 4,500 wells, 3,200 of them operating on a daily basis. Induced quakes have become more frequent because there's more wastewater from oil and gas operations around the country, and that has to be disposed of. Companies pump it down into the underground wells, and sometimes that water raises pressure on underground faults that then slip and cause those small quakes. For the past 2 years, according to the latest data, the number of earthquakes in Oklahoma has been decreasing. The same, however, cannot be said about the magnitude. The geological forecast for 2017 by Geoscience World says that Oklahoma and Kansas are still in a high-risk zone. Typically, the strength of earthquakes will decrease along with their frequency, but that has not held true for Oklahoma. Last year, the state experienced its 2 most powerful tremors with 5.8 magnitude in September near Pawnee, followed by a 5.3 magnitude near Cushing in November. Just a 5.0 magnitude quake is enough to send cracks up a building's wall. The fracking industry quashes suggestions that its operations cause earthquakes, but numbers and, more importantly, tremors do not lie. Up to 3 million people are living on a powder keg in Oklahoma's quake epicenter zones, with one major difference to those living in California. Oklahoma's infrastructure is not prepared for those. Alexei Rashevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.
The world's coldest continent officially has a new record high temperature. According to the World Meteorological Organization, Antarctica's northern tip reached a verified high of 63.5 degrees Fahrenheit in March 2015. That broke the old record of 59 degrees Fahrenheit. That was set in January of 1974. Antarctica was so warm on that day, it was hotter than some American cities. The high in Denver on March 24, 2015, 60 degrees. In Virginia Beach, it was only 47 degrees. The global record high of 134 degrees Fahrenheit set in California in 1913 is still standing.
The number of flu deaths continue to rise in our states. And this week, the State Department of Health and Human Services reports 16 people have died from complications related to the virus. And this brings a new total in North Carolina to 63 flu-related deaths this season, 4 of which were children. The CDC estimates 3,000 to 49,000 people die from flu infection nationwide each year. The health department says the flu vaccine is the most effective protection against the virus.
Paraquang's nephew, Nyagwande, has been suffering from diarrhea for days, but only water available to quench his thirst is from the nearby swamp here in Padie.
He drank water which is not clean, and the food we found we couldn't cook well. Now he has diarrhea, is vomiting, and maybe has malaria.
Padie is in Lear and one of the areas where famine was declared in late February this year. Drinking dirty water is often the only option, and with bodies weakened by hunger, not all who fall sick survive. Aid organizations say more than 100 people died of cholera alone over the past 6 months. And Yanenboom fears her children could suffer the same fate.
I left my other children at home to find food. They are sick with diarrhea. They're vomiting. They say they have headaches.
More than 3 years of conflict in South Sudan has left nearly half of the country's population facing severe food insecurities. More than 100,000 people are in the grip of famine, and that number is expected to rise.
Because of the conflicts and lack of access for humanitarian actors, many children lose their lives to preventable diseases. And with many areas suffering from famine, there are fears that more lives will be lost.
Aid agencies are struggling to give people the care they need.
It is very clear that in the whole county, water is a major issue, and clean water is a major issue. Sanitation is absolutely a major issue, and hygiene is a major issue. It's these 3 factors that indeed are creating the health challenges. And indeed the other part is clearly because we haven't had the access that we need to be able to provide, the much needed health services.
Those health services can mean the difference between life and death for the people of South Sudan. Par knows her nephew faces an uncertain future. Heba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Padie, South Sudan.
The Australian Foreign Ministry has announced that it will temporarily recall all its ambassadors to help reshape the country's foreign policy. Over 100 heads of missions, including the nation's ambassadors, high commissioners, and consul generals, will return to 3 days next month. They will meet with Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and trade and foreign ministers to discuss a long-awaited foreign policy white paper.
You know that Brussels has been an epicenter of terrorism in recent months and years. Right now, Brussels police are checking a car. It might be that white van that you see in the center of the screen. It was located with gas bottles and gasoline cans inside it, apparently. There was one blast heard. Authorities have closed off part of Brussels to check the suspect vehicle. Whether they have found active terrorism underway, we do not yet know, but we're certainly on top of it. We'll let you know more as the hour progresses.
2 French presidential candidates could be headed to jail instead of Élysée Palace. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen has been accused of illegally posting bloody and violent photos on social media in an effort to rile up her base. Meanwhile, conservative François Fillon faces an ongoing investigation over a fake job scandal involving his wife.
Oprah for president. The 60 Minutes correspondent says she's now rethinking the possibility. Winfrey reveals that before the election, she dismissed the idea, believing that she really didn't have enough government experience.
Well, that's been upended, I think.
But after President Trump won, she began to think a little differently.
Yeah. She has been a longtime Hillary Clinton supporter, and she talked to David Rubenstein in an interview that taped in December. It aired last night on Bloomberg TV. Take a listen.
Have you ever thought that given the popularity you have, we haven't broken the glass ceiling yet for women, that you could actually run for president and actually be elected?
I actually never thought that was, I never considered the question even a possibility. I just thought, oh.
Right, because it's clear that you don't need government experience to be elected president of the United States, right?
I thought, oh, gee, I don't have the experience. I don't know enough. I don't know. And now I'm thinking, oh.